Okay, we're good and we're live. All right, Friday, the 2nd of October, lecture series number 2482, volume 7, page 9. Uh-huh. Okay, today we're going to look directly into the Confessions by Augustine, and we're going to go through what I call the stages. The stages are printed in your textbook, and I have some stuff I want to offer, and then I want to read for examples out of the Confessions. All right, I better put these on. All right, first of all, stage one in the text on page 104. It's called the beginning. To me, in the beginning was the challenge. It is all it's to me. It's the representation in the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and there was man, etc. That story. In his confessions, this is what he challenges God, because these are like prayers or a one-on-one with God, is how he presents this. So now I want to attach some ages in years just for convenience. It's not the main purpose, but it's important to realize it's just a analogy or a similarity comparison. So this beginning stage would be like birth to the first year. And of course, that when you're only 1 year old, you don't speak and stuff, but just so the setting's there. And this first stage is all the questions that he wants to ask. And then in the beginning, we don't necessarily always know those questions, but they're there. That makes sense. They're there. It's like someone saying you are born without sin, and he says that's not true. You are born into sin, and you were born through sin. So it's a different way of looking at it. Okay. Right. First part is I'll just be dropping in and out here on page 104 and 105 to make some points. He asks and prays to God, I yet do not know you, Lord, or understand whether that you are first to invoke thee or to praise thee. What should I do? Whether first to know thee or call upon thee. In the beginning, I'll be paraphrasing here, in the beginning I am lost, I do not know which way to go. Okay, for he who knows thee not may invoke thee or another thou art. It may be that we should invoke thee in order that we may come to know thee. Okay, the use of invoke is to question and to ask. And I'm asking you one-on-one in my confessions. Okay, how could God, the God who made both heaven and earth, come into me? That is the question. Is there anything in me, O Lord, my God, that I can contain thee, see in thee? Do even the heaven and the earth which thou hast made, in which you dost make me, contain any of me? Is that possible? Even so, Lord, even so, where do I call thee to when I am already in thee then? Or from whence thou come into me? When will you come into me if you're not already there? So the pondering question is, within me, without me, are you already there, or is it something I have to obtain? And the words, I'm confused, just like probably some of you might be confused listening, but that's the intent is, where is it? He asks this, do greater things contain more of thee or smaller things? Less of thee. So is greater and smaller the comparison? If things are bigger, more profound in me or out there in the world, are you more apt to be there, or if it's something in between or something less? He wants to know. That's why. When a man cries, thus, thou showest him mercy, for thou did create that man, but did not create the sin in that man. Now, you two, do you find that confusing? The language that is used is to represent just the word question. Question everything. To question, and when you talk to God, ask Him these things. And in his confession, again, it's a prayer or it's a conversation with God. I have conversations all the time, but I don't say thee and thou, and I just kind of plainly ask, or help me see, help me feel, help me change, those. And I'm assuming, with good assumptions, that you do the same thing, that you're always questioning. Because as we get to your stage, you'll see there's already been a development. So that is the beginning stage, the challenge stage, the stage of birth to 1 year where everything is in question. So if we think about the biblical story of Adam, and then that is very, very good, but man, cannot live alone, and created Eve, the story. That's the infancy, even though when you read that story, you look at them as young adults. They're not 2 1-year-olds. Okay, stage 2 then is what he calls the infancy stage. And in projected years, it's about 2 to 5. It's this stage. I can remember some things I did, and by looking at certain pictures in the old family album, immediately a light bulb. I can remember taking that walk out to feed the chickens, and I got my dad's hat on, and that will stick in my mind. Now, without that, it's hard for me to remember a lot of things in that age group. Some people remember more. And I don't think it has much to do with how old you are at the time. It's the experiences. So in his stage 2, or Mr. French labels in stage 2, called infancy, on page 105 and 106, the question is that we ponder. The questions are, were we ever free from sin? Do I sin because I don't understand? Like an infant, people rebuke me or my actions, and people here he means like his parents. Think about it. Your parents or whoever is raising you at that time in that age bracket, they have a direct correlation. Now, did I sin because I wanted to do something, or what's the phrase that often is used when you throw a tantrum? Is it, terrible twos? The model is that a lot of terrible twos because, you lay down and kick, and I don't want to do that. You're not speaking perfect English, of course, but it's that growing process. Without knowing it, I'm positive you're observing things at that age, that in the stage of your development in seeking God. You're observing, watching, listening, and you're hearing things like no, 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 or hot, hot, hot. I remember that. And I always get my hand slapped because I wanted to see what was up on the stove. I can remember Mom saying those words. I can remember that. It's one of them. But anyway, as you develop through this stage, he's asking, am I a sinful person at that age because of what I'm saying and doing? He makes a correlation that's kind of interesting too, about, he uses Aeneas in the Odyssey, and Virgil and Homer, refers back to them. Okay, for in my sight there is none free from sin. That's what he's telling God. Not even the infant who has lived but a day upon this earth. Who brings this to me? Who makes me remember this? Can I remember the sins of my infant stage in life development? Was it because I refused my mother's milk, or the breast? They go through all that. As we grow, we root out and cast away from us childish habits. Yet I have not seen anyone who is wise who casts away the good when trying to purge the bad. And you can reverse that. That's on page 106 if you want to know. Nor was it good even in that time to strive to get by crying. Every time I wanted something, I would cry. Again, you got to play with me here on this. What does that symbolize? When I want something, what do I do? As we go to the next stage, in the next stage, I think it's easier to see that development. Okay, on page 106, stage 3, we enter now what he labels boyhood. I'm going to put girlhood in there too. 6 to 12, pre-kindergarten, first grade to 12. What are you, 7th grader? No, you're not. You're about 6th grader, aren't you? Whatever, your development of this. See the example on page 106. I'm going to read it to you. I possessed enough for my age at the time. However, my mind was absorbed only in play. I was punished for this by those who were doing the same thing themselves. Okay, what's that mean? Was it okay for me to be playing, he says ball, it could be soccer, it could be baseball, and then somebody else wasn't or was, and they made fun of me because I wasn't as good. You could put all those things in there. For the idling of the elders is called business, and the idling of boys is not. It's something different. But how can I be punished by my elders if I'm playing? Is it because I'm not playing their game? Or I have not learned how to play their game? For will any common sense observer agree that I was rightly punished as a boy for playing ball, just because this hindered me from learning more quickly these lessons by means of which a man can play at more shameful games as you grow older and older and older? That's not in the book, but basically what he's talking about. And you two feel free to interrupt if you are lost or have a question. Again, when is it a sin and when not is it a sin as you go through these stages? Keeps asking that over and over. He keeps asking God that. Am I compelled to learn about the wanderings, of certain Aeneas, Virgil's story? The Odyssey is referred to on the next page. The journey of life, the story of life, and the lessons I learned from it. And another question you should ask is, as these stages in development, how much can you understand? Now, you guys are, I'm going to get 18 to 20 something, right? You're at least 18, right? I know you're older, but, in that age group, you can look back and you should be able to say, oh, that's what that was. Good or bad. Hopefully everything was good in the sense that you see why you got punished or why you might have why that might have been sinful. Was it sinful to on the plate next to you is your little brother or sister, and you take a piece of their food? Where do you really draw a line in developing what is right, what is wrong, and what you observed and what you saw? But in the time of my childhood, which was far less dreaded for me than in my adolescence, I had no love of learning. I did not learn for myself. I did not learn to be learning. I look back now and say I did a lot of things for the fun, for the pleasure, for the good feeling, satisfaction I got from it, the pats on the back I got, maybe some rewards. And then when somebody like my parents would put other things in there, then I would get upset, rebel, cry, throw a tantrum. No, I don't want to do that. Yes, you will. As that development occurs, you will make your bed this morning. You will put your toys away. If you don't, there's another story of Larry. If you don't put your bicycle away inside the garage, somebody might come by and steal it, and you tend, Larry, to park your bike right by the garbage cans. What if the garbage man came by? Would he think because it's leaning on the garbage can that it's no longer good and that he needs to put it in the garbage truck? I continued to do that, and one day my bicycle was gone. My folks took my bicycle, and for about a month they hid it. And miraculously, on my birthday, it shows up. But, but looking down or looking back at those things, now a light bulb clicks on, I hope. And this is, again, what Augustine is, struggling with. And he did the same struggles as everybody else. And some people just don't even pay attention to it until all of a sudden, whoa. And anyway, okay. Once again, the infancy stage, the boyhood stage that we're in was approximately, you're going to assign years to it, 6 to 12. Okay, he makes one more last statement that I want to read to you on this. Look down, he's telling God, look down, O Lord God, and see patiently as art wrought to do what I should do. Okay. How diligently sons of man or men observe the conventional rules of letters, symbols, taught by those who learned those letters and symbols. Now, as you know, that age group, this is why it helps to identify, is when you start at school, either homeschooled or preschool and into kindergarten, first, second, third grade. Those research that I have seen and read about, the first 5 years of schooling are critical. Before that, brain development is critical, takes over everything and how things are perceived. But when you start reading, learning to read, write, compute, arithmetic, compute and express yourself, you learn in the social media sense of school what is acceptable outside your home. The way you act at home, you know the boundaries. When you first go to school, you learn those new boundaries with some of the same principles, but with new added things. And that's what he's saying. I'm now noticing that I'm being taught by older people that have gone through this, had the experience of learning to read, to write, and they're trying to help me. Now, when I rebuke them, am I sinful? Or if I completely shut myself off from them. Now, you got to take out any illness or disease you have or any mental incapacities and stuff like that. But that's his question. All right. Stage 4, adolescence. This was the most scariest for me. I was a very shy individual. The only thing that saved me at the time was my outward aggression of athletics. I could care about reading, writing, and math. I wanted to express myself through the physical world. I wasn't mean or violent. I wasn't disrespectful, but I was tremendously introverted and shy. And the way I could get out of that shell was to express myself anything to do with athletics. If you could see me back then, I'd be in the backyard when I didn't have chores, throwing the ball against this famous angled well house door that ricocheted off a brick wall, and I could play catch with myself all day. I put a little square up there so I could pitch, see if I could hit, I mean, I had a basketball on a tree, basketball rim on a tree. That's what I did. Over and over and over. All right. Now, stages of adolescence is defined as your teen years, 13 to 19. And this has to do with the confusion of the mind and what is there to be, says, love. Now, he defines there are many loves. There are self-love, friendship love, love of survival, love of self. And it's kind of like the story I told you about. How do you express yourself to other people? And of course, the one that is really confusing in this age group is the passion, the puberty of sexual love, of love that, and he relates to it as forbidden fruits. But not all fruits are forbidden. The fruit, the analogy of the fruit is an orange can be good for you, but an orange could be bad for you if you're allergic to it. Guess what? In the biblical story, the first fruit that changed everything was the apple. Supposedly an apple. What if it was a banana? Okay. Those are the forms of love that he sees and the problems you have adapting to them. He says, do you love to be loved? Do I keep my moderate way of love in my mind? This is out of the book, The Bright Path of Friendship. Those are the love patterns. Instead, miss the passions steam up in my puberty or my flesh in my imagination. Puberty, the so obscured and overcast of my heart, trying to figure out what is pure affection or love of heart. Now, his love of heart is what he calls true love of man, to love thy neighbor, to love thyself, to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Now, he's asking God here what confusions I have about these different types of love and what should I do. And it's in this little section of reading, it's hard. And it's a little bit longer. It's maybe 2 pages. But if you read the whole thing to yourself, you find out the struggle is an ongoing thing. It's a natural gift. It's a natural thing. And the most important thing in all the love patterns, like anything else in your life, you are given the ability to choose. What you choose to do about it how to go about it is critical. Is it sinful? Let's use the one that's the example of sexual activity in marriage. Is that a sin? If it's done outside of marriage, is that a sin? Is it done because you care for each other? Is that a sin? You can take any other love. I have a love of those Dutch Bro coffees. Is that a sin? To me, it can be a sin because I overindulge. God, is a sin because I have switched to sugar-free mocha made with almond milk, which has been proven that dairy products can be more harmful to you beyond a certain age. You do need, but see how that's the question. How do I use those types? Love of mind, my ability to think, to create, to destroy. The physical. There's a physical love. See, my physical love when I was growing up was athletics, and that was a God for me. Even though I went to Sunday school and church every Sunday with my parents, but still, I kept asking, and I cannot. I'm thinking right now ahead of time. I can't remember the exact light bulb moment when I came out of my shell. And there were stages in high school and definitely in college. One instance pops into my mind in college that changed my total realm of getting out of my shell. If you were my friends, everything was fine. But if I got in a group of people I didn't know very well, then, I introverted and I didn't lash out. But the only other thing is if I had special skills, I could, exhibit those. Another one was I was a pretty good bowler. And I made money under the table, which I wasn't supposed to do, and gifts and stuff. Because that wrecked your amateur status, big deal, right? But those were still expressions of how I was getting. And my mom and dad were really upset that I wasn't able to express myself better. But in the middle of college, and Vietnam and the protests and all that, things started changing. Because one little, she's probably younger than me. I'm going to call her little old lady in college speech class, changed everything. And I look back now that is a gift from God, a divine moment, a divine providence or moment that I made a choice. Okay, back to some reading. You guys with me? Okay, here's something that I thought was kind of unique. It's kind of crazy too. A thief is punished by the law written in man's heart and by man, which is even ingrained wickedness can erase. For what thief will tolerate another thief? If you're going to be a good thief, you better be a good thief. But it's kind of like that commercial on TV with a guy, his job is installing, I'm sure you've seen it, alarm systems for thieves, and yet he's dressed in thieves' clothes, and that's what he does. He goes around stealing things. But the honor, among thieves is a term that comes out. There is honor among thieves. You don't steal from another thief. If you do, you're going to pay the big price. So why don't you see that when you take that extra helping, Larry, of a dairy product you're not supposed to have, ice cream. That's another one of my downfalls. Okay, there is a pear tree close to my vineyard, heavily laden with fruit, which was not tempting me either for its color or its flavor, but we carried off a huge load of those pears, and this pleased all of us more because it was forbidden to do so. So did I steal? I can remember a couple stories of I didn't think that was stealing. I didn't think of vandalism. The little pranksters. People didn't have underground sprinkling systems in my day. Early in the morning or late at night, we'd go around, 3 or 4 of us, and we would take the hoses from their yards, and tie them from one pole across the street. The street's not too wide when you're in neighborhood streets now, and tie them across to the other side. So when a car came by, they saw them at the last second, and they'd slam on their brakes and snap the hose in half, and we'd be giggling. We thought that was fun because we all did it, and we didn't think anything was bad about that. Until one night, the word got out in this neighborhood that somebody's going around tying hoses across. We did it again, and lo and behold, there were 3 police cars really close by. And I was the only one that got away. I literally ran through a backyard and inside someone's back door. Now that was bad. So when those 2 got picked up by their parents, and then we compared notes later at school, all I did was make fun of them because they got caught and I did. So sometimes something that's forbidden brings you gratification and good job, yet you weren't a very good person for doing that. Okay. Wow, huh? On page 109. To go with that, ambition seeks honor and glory, whereas only thou should be honored and glorified. We all seek to have some identification of honor and glory. You can use my growing up athletics. I want to be known as a good ball player. I found out being a good ball player mean you had to be a good citizen, and you had to have good sportsmanship, and you had to be, and that's where I'm sure I picked up some of those values, not only from my parents, but from that. And I had no clue that God had planned. And I know now that God had planted that in me, to strive for my identification as an athlete and to glorify those abilities. At that moment, though, I wasn't glorifying God like I should have been and thanking God for those abilities. That came later. But at that moment in high school and college as an athlete and changing my ways slowly became a really critical change in me, for the better. So guess what I'm preaching, and what he's preaching is recognize it sooner. Be thankful what you're given. Help others. Gain there. Boy, sorry about this, but this just popped in my mind. I can remember in high school, particularly later high school, senior, junior, I would not tolerate people in our school building making fun of other people. Where did I get that notion?